Okay, to my subscribers, I need to say thank you. Thank you very much for your support and for joining me on becoming debt-free. If you're new here, come here, baby. If you're new here, my name is Kedema, and I want to welcome you to my channel. In today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process of how I got to a point to where I was able to start splitting up my bills between my paychecks. I'm going to encourage you guys to take whatever you learn from this video and apply it to your own personal budget and however you need to. Before we get started, I want to tell you that in this video, I will not be sharing my real numbers and I will not be using my real expenses, just to save time and to make it go a lot easier. If you do want to see my real numbers, my real debt, and my real expenses, then you can go ahead and check out any other video on my channel. Yes, I'm you, mama. Guys, go ahead and get started. Say bye. Actually, guys, I'll go ahead and pick up after he goes down for a nap. Before we get into the video, we need to talk about what is income. Your income is the money that you make on a regular basis. It's not what you plan to make. It's not the hours that you hope to work or the side jobs that you plan to pick up in the next week. Your income is the actual amount of money that you bring home. People get paid differently. There is a bi-weekly pay period where you get paid every 2 weeks. And then there is a weekly pay period, meaning that you get paid once a week. Then there's a monthly pay period, which means that you get paid once a month. I recommend that anyone should budget regardless of when you get paid. Because if you have an income, then you can create a budget. If you have an income, then you have the right to tell your money where it needs to go. Before we get into breaking down a budget, the first thing that you need to do is figure out what your monthly expenses are. That means you need to sit down with a piece of paper and a marker or a pen, and you need to write down everything you pay for in 1 month. Anything that is reoccurring monthly that you pay for, you write it down. If it clears an account automatically, you write down that due date. That's the first thing you're going to do. Second thing you want to do is you're going to figure out your income. You're going to figure out how much money you bring into your home on a monthly basis. If sometimes it varies, you go with the amount that is the smallest. The third thing you want to do is you want to call the companies that you have your bills with, and you want to ask them if they can adjust your due dates according to when you get paid. If you know that you get paid on the 1st and the 15th of every month, then maybe you should have the majority of your bills coming out after the 15th, because you know you've already would have gotten 2 paychecks. After all that has been done, then you can start your budget and you can spread those bills out between your paychecks. First thing is, like I said, we're gonna write down all of our expenses. Our first expense will be rent. And we'll say our rent is $600 a month. Our second expense will be electricity. We need to keep the lights on, and that will be $150 a month. Water bill, we'll say that is $100 a month. And then we have a phone, and in this case our phone will be paid off, so our bill is $80 per month. The gas, I'm not talking about fuel for your car, it's just gas for your home, and we'll say that is $40 a month. Food, we will say that we put $150 per month to our food. And then fuel for our car, we'll say that we put $70 a month. And this amount gets us to and from work and anywhere else we gotta go. Variable will be just anything else that comes up extra. And we will give us a budget of $50. In a month, these are our expenses, right? Rent, electricity, water, phone, gas, food, fuel, and variable. Variable can be whatever we see fit. Now for these due dates. We will give these bills random due dates. I know that I told you guys prior to call everybody and see if we can get these companies to work with our paydays. Let's say that you haven't done that and you hope to do that later, or let's just say that you aren't going to do that. Some people won't do that. I know I did that. For this video, we're going to give these bills random due dates. Today is, I love you too, baby. It's July the 25th. So for the month of July, if we were on a bi-weekly pay period, that means that we would have gotten paid July 3rd and then July 17th. There is an extra Friday or an extra pay period in this month for some people. I know for me, I am getting a third paycheck in July. Not all businesses do that. So whenever there is an extra pay period in July, I consider those like bonus checks. Because this is my regular, this is my extra check. August, I would get paid again the first Friday and the third Friday. Right? September, I'd get paid on the 4th and then again on the 18th. And then in October, there's the first Friday and the third Friday. Looky, looky, here's an extra Friday. You may or may not get a bonus check that month. And if you do, that's awesome. If you don't, you want to budget accordingly with these two pay periods. The reason why it is important to budget is because, for example, if your rent is due on the 1st and your job doesn't give you that extra check, that means you're going this week and this week without any income, and then your rent is due on the 1st. So if you wouldn't have budgeted between these two paychecks, you wouldn't be able to pay your rent until the 7th. So I know me personally with our mortgage, if I don't budget these two paychecks, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay our mortgage on the 1st. With budgeting, you can get to a point to where you can split your bills. And now what we're going to do is we're going to write all these paydays on our budget sheet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to split up each one of these bills one at a time between our next coming checks. So what we're going to say is every 2 weeks we make $650. $650 times 2 is $1,300. That would be our monthly. This is saying we get paid every 2 weeks $650. That gives us $1,300 monthly. This is saying after taxes. We're going to budget with the minimum that we bring home, which would be $650 after taxes. So our rent is $600 and it's due on the 1st. I know that I have a check coming on the 31st and then the next check is August 7th. Well, this is due on the 1st. I cannot use this paycheck to pay for something that's due on the 1st, because that is the 7th is well after the 1st. So then I'm going to have to use $600 from this paycheck. Okay? Now the electricity, it's due on the 10th. I know that I'm getting paid July 31st and then August 7th. So that means that I have 2 paychecks to work with before this bill is due. So I'm going to split that $150 up, and it should be $75. So $150 split between these 2 paychecks. That means that I have to $75 from here and $75 from here. If I pull $75 from this check and this check, come the 10th, I will have the $150. Okay? The water bill is due on the 18th. I have a check coming the 31st of July, August 7th, and the 21st. Well, I still can't use this check because this is well after the 18th, and I'm not trying to accumulate any late fees, so I'm going to keep working within these dates. So I can do 50 from this check and then 50 from this check. Now let's move to the phone. The phone is due on the 20th. I have 2 checks before August 20th. So then that means I can do 40 from here and then 40 from here. So now my gas bill. I have a check coming here, here, and here. What I can do is I can split this up between this check, and this check, because this bill is due on the 21st. But I already see that I am accumulating a great expense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to split this bill up between here and here. 20 and 20 will give me the $40 that I need to pay this bill before the 21st, right? Now food. Let's say I need food at the beginning of the month and the end of the month, because that means that I went grocery shopping here and here. Well, by this time has passed, I need to go get more food. So I'm going to split the grocery bill up between this paycheck and this paycheck. And then again in this paycheck. So I'm going to divide that by 3. So 150 divided by 3, that means that I will use $50 here, $50 here, and then $50 here. And then fuel. I would have gassed up here. I would have put gas here. And then chances are, since there's an extra Friday, I probably need to get gas here. And I probably won't need to fill up again until here. But just to take the pressure off of using up this check, I'm still going to divide that gas expense between this check, and this check. So fuel, 70 divided by 3. And it gives me 23.3, so we're going to round up to 24. So I would put 24 from this check, 24 from this check, and 24 from this check. And then variable. The same thing. So I'll get $17 from this check, $17 from that check, and $17 from that check. Now let's see how much money we're going to use from this paycheck to cover all of these bills. Everything that was due before their due dates, we've spread it out accordingly. For example, let's look at the gas. It's due the 21st. Well, we were able to split it between these 2 paychecks. Let's look at food. We're going to need food. We have these 3 paychecks to buy food with, so we split it up between these 3 paychecks. The same thing with fuel, and the same thing with our variable expenses or our miscellaneous. Let's see how much money our bills add up to for this paycheck. So that means that with this paycheck, these bills add up to $856. With this paycheck, we need to take care of $856 worth of expenses. Our income is still $650. $650 minus $856 equals negative $206. All of our expenses add up to $856. Our income is $650. That means that we are short $206. What we can do to make up for that money is we can put in some extra overtime. We can sell some things around the house. We can go on a spending freeze. We can offer to babysit family. We can do whatever we got to do to make up for this $206 that we're short, because we are still the 25th. That means that we have this time to put in extra hours. We have this time to sell whatever we can sell around the house, because we got to do whatever we can do within our means to make this difference of $206. The first paycheck that you budget with is always going to be the one where you don't have a lot of money left over. The first paycheck that you budget with is going to be the one where more than likely you're going to be in the negative and you're going to have to come up with extra money. That's just how it is whenever you budget your first paycheck. For me, I know when I did my first budget, when I go back and look, I was short $154 on my first budget. And then the next time I budget, it was like only short like $80. Around the third time that I budget, I got to see where I was starting to have more money left over instead of having to come up with money. That's just how it is when you first start to budget. Please do not let that intimidate you. Moving on to the next pay period, August 7th. Well, our rent is $600. It was due on the 1st. We already have it covered because we already put this paycheck towards rent. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and split that up. Because now with this paycheck, what we're going to do is we're going to start budgeting for the rent that's due in September. So we're going to put $300 here from this check. We've already split the electricity. We've already split the water. We've already split the phone. We've already split the gas. We've already split the food. We've already split the fuel. We've already put into miscellaneous spending or variable spending. Now let's see how much these expenses add up to. So that means that our expenses with this paycheck come up to $576. Our income is still $650. Now let's see. Now that means that we have $75 left over. Do you see why we went through the effort of coming up with the difference here? We needed to come up with that so that we can split up our bills here. Now we have an extra $75 left over because we were able to split our expenses up over here. So now let's move to this paycheck. We still have to come up with the other half of the rent that's due September 1st. So now here's the other half we're going to use. 75 here. 50 for the water bill, 40 for gas, the food, fuel, and miscellaneous spending, So our expenses with this paycheck are going to be the same as this paycheck because the numbers are the same. So then that means our expenses add up to $576, and our income was still the $650. But now this extra $75, we get to include it as income because we're rolling this over. So now we have $650 from our regular paycheck plus the $75 that was left over. So now we have $725 to pay these bills. So let's do that. So 725 minus 576, that means we are going to have $149 left over from this paycheck. So now we have $149 left over. We can start a small sinking fund if we want to, or we can put some money into savings, or we can just continue to roll this over. What I want to do is I want to continue to roll over this money. So now this money, I'm going to save it and I'm going to put it towards this pay period. Now we are in a new month. It is payday. It is September 4th. We already paid our rent because it was due on the 1st. We were saving in August to pay for rent that was due September 1st. That's already done. So September 4th, we know that our rent is the 300 split, 75. Our water, we're still splitting that up, 50. Our phone split is 40. Our gas split is 20. Our food, we are going to be splitting our food up between this check and this check because we are getting paid twice in September. So then our food is 150 divided by 2, that's 75. Now our fuel is going to be split up between this check and this check. In September, we only get 2 checks, so now we're splitting this up between 2. So now our fuel expense went up to $35. The reason why it went up is because you got to remember when we started our budget, we had 3 checks to split this expense between. So we did 24, 24, 24, right? That covered the fuel expense for this paychecks. Now we're in September. So now we only have 2 paychecks to split. So instead of splitting it between these 3 like we did, we're going to split it in half between these 2. So we are 70 divided by 2, it's 35. And then variable. Remember guys, we were able to split this expense between these 3 paychecks. That was because we had 3 checks to work with. Now we're in September, we have 2 checks to work with. So 50 split by 2 is 25. Now let's see how much our bills add up to. So now our bills add up to $620. And the reason being is because we went up in our fuel and we went up in our variable miscellaneous and we went up in our food. Because we only know we're getting paid twice in September, so we need to split these up by 2. So now let's see what we're going to do next. Our total expense is $620. Our income is $650. Remember this $149 that I said I wanted to roll over? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the $620 plus the $149 rollover, that gives us an income of $799. So $799 is what we have to pay these bills. Now let's pay these bills. So $799 minus $620. That means that with this pay period, we have $179 left over. So I had $179 left over. I'm going to put $79 into sinking funds, and I'm going to put $100 into this Paychecks rollover. Let's do that. And now all of our bills are split up exactly in half. So then 300 here, 75 here, 50 here, 40 for a phone, 20 for gas, food, 75 fuel, 70 variable, 25. These numbers are identical to last week's expenses, so we know that our bills are going to add up to $620, right? Our income is still $650, but now we have the plus 100 from last week's leftover or rollover. 650 plus 100 is 750. So now we know we have $750 to pay for these bills. We have a remainder of $130. Now we have $130. We can go ahead and put $30 into sinking funds and then roll over the 100. So now I'm going to put 30 into sinking funds, and then this 100 I'm going to roll over here to the next pay period. Whenever you start your budget, what ends up happening is whatever month you're budgeting in, that money is going towards the following month. So when we were breaking apart this check, we were setting aside the rent and the electricity, the water, the phone, the gas, the food, the fuel, and the miscellaneous expenses for August. In August, when we were splitting apart these bills, they were to cover September's. So when we're splitting September's checks, these are to cover October's. By September 18th, this rent is going to October 1st. Now, since all of our bills are split, this is what we know that our expenses would be. If we add an extra bill, we need to make sure that we're increasing our income. So then our bills would be $620 here. We had our rollover of 100. That means we only have $100 left over. What I would do is I would just roll this over to the next paycheck. And the same thing, our bills would be the same because they're already split. 620 income is still 650 plus the 100. So then 750 minus 620, that means this time we have $130 rollover. What I would do is I would put the 30 towards sinking funds and then the 100 to roll over. And the same thing, it'll just carry on like that. 620 are all our bills because we've already split them up. 650 plus the rollover of 100, that's 750 minus 620. That means we have another $130. Let's say this time I want to put 50 into sinking funds. So, I had put 30 from the sinking fund, and then I'm going to put 50 into sinking funds. And then 130 minus 50, that means 80. That means I'm going to roll over 80 to this pay period. Let's say that we are going to keep going. November 6th and then November 20th. And remember, we said that sometimes our income changes. Sometimes we make more than $650, sometimes we make $750, sometimes we make $800. If we do that means that this money that we're having left over is going to be more. That means we can put more into sinking funds, more into savings, more into paying debt, or more into rolling over. We're budgeting off our bare minimum. We're budgeting off the smallest checks we've made. We make over the $650, we can tell it to pay debt, we can tell it to go into savings, we can tell it to roll over to the next pay period. We can start sinking funds, we can do whatever we want with whatever money we make because we are working a budget off of our minimum income. Okay, so we are working in November. Bills are still split and they still come out to $620. Our income is $650 plus the $80 rollover. So let's do $650 plus 80. That means we have $730 to pay $620 worth of expenses. So $730 minus $620. That means from this paycheck, we have $110 left over. I want to put 10 into sinking funds and I want to roll over 100. And it'll just go on and go on and go on and go on. And then somewhere down the line, I may get a bonus check, maybe around Christmas. I may put in extra overtime around the holidays. And that is how, if I was to start a budget today on the 25th, and these would be my pay periods, this is how I would work a budget out. This is what I would do. This would be the process and the steps that I would follow in order to get to a place where I can split my bills up. And you might ask, why would I want to split my bills up? If I get paid twice a month, I could just pay the first part of my bills at the beginning and then the first part of my bills towards the end. And I'm going to just show you why. So if I use this paycheck to pay for the mortgage or the rent for the 1st of July, this check went to pay the other half of the bills. How am I paying my rent in August that's due on the 1st when I don't get paid to the 7th? You see what I'm saying? So now my mortgage is late or my rent is late, whichever one you have. It's late because that check didn't come to the 7th because I've just been splitting my bills up between two paychecks, not splitting my bills up in half. There's a difference. When you can split them up in half, the amount you have to take out per check is less. I really hope that I was able to explain this process without confusing anyone. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know how this video worked out for you guys. Have a good day. Bye.